Hello students and namaste everyone. Our today's topic for your standard 9th social science is chapter number 20, disaster management. So first of all, we need to understand what is the meaning of disaster and management, right? So first of all, we need to understand the meaning of disaster. So usually we can use many different words for disaster, like the calamity, or even we can say that disasters can be man-made or natural. If it is natural, we can even use the word act of God, right? So any kind of accident or tragedy is known as disaster. Disaster management means what, right? So usually disaster management means what? Showing preparedness, right? And try to reduce the effect of disaster, right? So disaster management in simple word means organizing and planning in order to reduce the effects of disaster, right? So that is known as disaster management. Usually trainings are provided to the people so that in future, if any kind of disaster or natural calamity takes place, right, and if they are aware, then they can take steps so that they can reduce the effect, right? The effect of the disaster can be reduced to minimum. So that is disaster management. Even in some schools, even in some organizations, right, this disaster management trainings or programs are carried out, wherein, for example, the people, they come and show you that how, if the earthquake takes place, that what steps should be taken, or what effect means what we should do at that point of time. Because usually what happens, whenever any disaster takes place, the first thing what happens to the person is that they get panicked, right? They get so much panicked and so much confused that they don't know what to do. Even some basic things are forgotten by them. So the disaster has its adverse effect on them. But if they take care of some basic or minimum things which is required at the time of disaster, right, then the effect of it can be reduced to a certain extent, right? So at the time of disaster also, we need to be very active, and we should take the decisions in a proper way instead of getting panicked. Okay, so that is what all we are going to study in this chapter. In this chapter, many disasters are being talked about, right? Man-made and the natural disasters. So what is that disaster ultimately? Then how can we fight back? Again, everything is mentioned in this chapter. So let us start the explanation from the textbook, which is on page number 148. Okay, so let us begin. Chapter 20, disaster management, first paragraph. A disaster may be natural or man-induced. That means it can be natural, that can be an act of God, or man-induced. Right? Man-induced means the disaster is taking place because of the mistake of the people, human beings. Okay. Further, it is written, it may be catastrophic or diastrophic. So again, these are some new words for you. So catastrophic means a terrible disaster. Catastrophic means a calamity or a terrible disaster. Next is diastrophic. So diastrophic means tectonism. You have already studied in the previous chapters regarding the movements in the plates which are below the surface of the earth, which keeps on moving, because of which also earthquake or situations like that occurs or takes place. So that is diastrophic. May have originated in the interior of the earth or in atmosphere. It is felt over extensive area on the earth and also results in devastation. Again, we all know that due to natural calamities like the storm, cyclone, or even the tsunami, earthquake, right? So such kind of disasters, they affect very adversely or badly, and a lot of devastation or the destruction takes place on the surface of the earth. Further, if we examine a few phenomena, it will be clear that a disaster damages lives and property to a great extent. right? So if we carefully have a look at it, we can find it out, or we can come to know that because of those disasters a lot of destruction takes place, whether it is destruction of property or loss of life. Okay, some events like volcanic eruption, earthquake, tsunami, etc. are the collective results of both natural as well as man-induced acts, right? So what is given over here is are the collective results of both natural as well as man-induced act, because many times what happens, again we all know the process that we human beings are being very selfish. For our own sake we keep on cutting the trees, we keep on polluting the environment, we keep on digging the earth. So because of all these things, the natural environment or the natural conditions, they get disturbed, and because of that the acts which take place on the earth, like the earthquake or the tsunami and all, right? So because of that many different kind of disasters takes place, right? So a lot of destruction usually takes place because of that, and that is the reason it is written natural or as well as man induced acts, right? So it is many times naturally occurring or even due to the men, that is the human beings, by the act or the action done by the human beings, such kind of activities take place. Okay, next is some events bring pre-planned devastation and destruction. Example, atomic attack by US bombers over Hiroshima and Nagasaki cities of Japan in the Second World War. Then whereas some events are results of human negligence or mistakes. Example, Bhopal gas tragedy, right? So this was again a very famous incident when in the early morning period a lot of there was a leakage of a poisonous gas, and because of which lot of people in the surrounding areas they got died, right? Next is Chernobyl atomic disaster of Russia. Again the famous one is the US bombers attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? We know it very well that during the Second World War America had dropped 2 bombs, there is atomic bombs on this 2 Japanese cities, that is Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the effect of it was so extreme, so devastating that a lot of destruction took place, and the effect of the atomic bomb had its everlasting effect on these cities. Why everlasting effect? Because at that time many people there died, a lot of destruction of property had taken place, but the main thing is that even after years in those cities many people when they were born, they were born handicapped with some or the other problems, right? So that is the effect of atomic bomb or the explosion of the atomic bomb, right? So even after many years also, those kids who were born or those children who were born in those cities, they were born handicapped with some or the other problem in their body. Okay, moving further, types of disasters, right? So now we are going to see what are the different types of disasters. We are aware of the risks of disasters. To decide the strategy for relief work, it is necessary to know the reasons and possible situations. It is necessary to know the reasons and possible situations. That means if any kind of disaster takes place, what will be the circumstances of that? So if we know that what will happen because of that, then only we can take measures, that if this kind of thing happens, then we'll do this kind of thing, right? So that is what is being talked about here. It is important to know this with the reference to overall preparation for relief work, right? Usually any kind of natural calamity or human disasters takes place, then usually the government or the people or the NGOs, they carry out the relief work. That means they try to reach over that place and they try to help the people to come out of that disaster. Okay, experts on disaster management have divided the disasters into 2 categories. First one is natural disasters. So let us find out what does it include. This include flood, cyclone, tsunami, drought. earthquake, volcano, forest fire, etc. Of this, a forecast is possible for. Forecast means we can get some signs or symbols. Forecasting, you all know, to do the prediction work. So we can predict about some of the events or incidents like floods, cyclones, tsunami, right, and drought. While it is not possible to forecast earthquake, volcanic eruption and forest fire, right. So again we need to understand this, right, that even some natural disasters are there which can be forecasted, and some are there which cannot be forecasted or predicted, or predictions cannot be made for that. Okay. Next is man-induced disasters. Here fire, industrial accidents, bomb explosions, riots, etc. are included. Okay, so these are some of the disasters which happens because of the human beings or their action. Okay, so let us proceed further and try to understand each and every one of them in detail. So first one is natural disaster, in which what is given is flood. So by flood we generally mean an extensive land area remaining submerged under water continuously for several days, right. So we all at some point or the other time we might have read about the news, or we might have personally experienced this thing, that due to heavy or continuous rainfall for days, the land gets submerged in the water, which is known as flood. Okay, or even due to overflowing of the rivers also, right. The floods means overflowing of the rivers, the land area gets submerged in the water, which is known as flood. So what is written is, by flood we generally mean an extensive land area remaining submerged under water continuously for several days. People associate flood with river. When river water overflows its banks and the nearby land area comes underwater, that means everything, house, vehicles, everything gets submerged in the water, and everywhere we can find only water and water. Flood is a natural event and is the result of continuous heavy rainfall. Floods become dangerous when some construction is carried out ignoring human activities, drainage pattern, slope of the land, etc., and damage lives and property on a larger scale. Okay, so floods become dangerous when some construction is carried out ignoring human activities. For example, if dams are built not taking into consideration the land area or the surrounding area, then it can become dangerous. Moving ahead, what to do, right? What to do. So usually when the flood occurs, what to do, what we need to do it, the steps are given over here. Collect your precious and personal requirements and take refuge at a safer place, right? So usually the people, they go to the higher level of floors for keeping themselves protected. Put water, dry breakfast, candles, lanterns, matchbox in a plastic box, so that it doesn't get affected because of the water. Okay, so that they do not get wet, and they should be kept with you. Do not keep the children hungry, right? Again, it is important. After the flood recedes means once the flood takes place, everything is covered with water, but slowly and gradually the water will recede. That means it will lessen, the level of water will reduce, which is known as recedes. Drink only boiled water, right? So once all the water is drained, the water which should be drink should be boiled before drinking, right? Because it might be possible the water which we are getting for drinking might be polluted. Okay, radio, mobile phone should be kept with you invariably. Be aware of snakes, right? So usually what happens, because of the continuous water, right, we all know that there are many insects which are buried or which lives below the surface of earth, though even they may come out. So what is written is, be aware of snakes. They may come to dry places, keep a bamboo stick to drive them away, right? So we should keep a bamboo stick with us so that some unwanted things, if they try to come to us, we can move them away from us. Okay, so that is what to do. Now next is what not to do. Okay, what we should avoid doing during the time of flood. So first point is, do not eat food prepared in flood water. Do not eat food prepared in flood water, because as I said that it may be contagious water, right, which might be polluted. Do not move out without collecting authentic information about the routes and situations before moving to a safer place, right? So once the water gets receded, do not move to any place without getting proper information about that place or the route, because might be possible that because of the flood the route or the roads might get damaged, and once you reach half the way you realize that it's not possible to go on the other side or the place where you want to reach. Okay, so that was all about flood. Next is cyclone, right? So due to atmospheric disturbances, we know that high pressure area and low pressure areas are created, and because of which cyclone takes place. So that is known as atmospheric disturbances. So due to atmospheric disturbances, a sudden strike is made by severe storm, right? We know that because of that the wind starts blowing with a high speed. Okay, these storms are known as cyclone in Indian subcontinent, hurricane and tornado in USA, as typhoon along the coast of China and Japan. These severe atmospheric storms are created due to unequal atmospheric pressure. So that I already said that because of the low pressure and the high pressure area which is created near the sea coast. Okay, such storms or cyclones create devastation. Devastation means destruction over the area over which they pass. Its devastating effects are felt along the coasts of eastern India and Kutch and Saurashtra. Again, we all know that usually means the India is a land area which is covered from three sides with the coastal line or coastal area, and usually cyclone is something which is experienced on the coastal area. So maximum destruction usually takes place over there only, right? Recently in Bhavnagar, so we had experienced the cyclone, because of which a lot of destruction took place. Lots of trees they had fallen down, many houses they were damaged, many vehicles were damaged, right? So a lot of destruction had taken place. Okay, so when such kind of situation happens or occurs, what should be done, right? So here the paragraph is given what to do. So let us find out. Keeping view the news bulletin on TV, radio to know the anticipated time of the oncoming storm. So usually the forecasting starts coming on via mobile phones or even the TVs or the radios, that this situation of cyclone or the storm is going to continue till 48 hours or 50 hours or for 4 days or 5 days or 2 days, right? So they keep on updating us every now and then. Right now we all have mobile phones, even on that we can find out the live location of the cyclone and all, right? So that is what is written. Keep viewing the news bulletins on TV, radio to know the anticipated time of the oncoming storm, right? Those who have a radio should keep an extra battery ready. That means if we are having radio, right, we know that radio is kind of old thing. So at present we have the mobile phones. So we should make sure that if we are having the banks, that is for charging the mobile phones, they should be kept ready. Even the mobile phones, they should be kept charged fully. Unnecessary use of mobile phones should not be there done, so that the battery doesn't get exhausted, right? Mobile phones should be kept fully charged in advance. If you have a power bank instrument, it should also be charged fully in advance. So that is what we discussed right now. Listen carefully to the instructions, warnings broadcast over radio and implement them, right? So usually during such kind of situation, the government sends a lot of instructions, right? So those instructions should be strictly followed. They should be carefully and strictly followed. Stay away from rumors, alright? Rumors, the Gujarati word for that is afwa, right? So usually when any such kind of incident or event takes place, many people, they start spreading the rumors. So we should always try to avoid that. Store additional food, dry breakfast and drinking water as per need, because that will be the time when the cyclone is live or it is crossing or going across your place. Then during that period of time we cannot move out of our house, right? So it is always very risky or dangerous. So it's advisable to keep all these things at our home only, like food, water and all. Keep provision of food and medicines necessary for children and old people. If the rescue team tells you to vacate your home, vacate means empty, okay, cooperate with them. Use pure and safe drinking water. If you have taken shelter in a shelter home, right, so because of cyclone, if there is a lot of destruction taking place, and if there is a requirement of preparing shelter homes, so shelter homes are prepared and the houses are vacated, right? And if the people, they are shifted over there, so if you have taken shelter in a shelter home created by the government or an NGO, then follow their instructions and do not leave the premises without their instructions. So strictly we should follow all the discipline, all the instructions given by them, right? And do not do any such kind of activity which is harmful for them as well as us. Do not keep your domesticated animals tied up, right? Domesticated animals means tamed animals, or even we can say paltu, like the goat, sheep, dog, cats, right? Cow, buffalo. So those are the domesticated animals. So they should not be kept tied up to their post. If they are free, they can defend themselves in a better way, right? So we can just imagine that due to the cyclone, if they are kept free, so they can even try to hide at a better place. But if we have tied them to the post, it becomes very difficult for them to defend themselves, right? So their life will be at risk. What not to do, right? What care should be taken and what we should not do during the time of cyclone. So do not pay any attention to gossips or rumors except for the instructions issued by the weather department on radio. So we should always focus on the authorized agencies for the news updates. If the atmosphere calms down suddenly, rain stops, wind becomes standstill, even then do not go out in open area. Wind or rainfall may strike suddenly, right? So if it has stopped for some time, it doesn't mean that it will not again come back. It might be possible that again it can strike back, right, with double force or pressure. Do not touch electric poles or loose wires. Stay away from them, right? So we should try to stay away from those electric poles or loose wires if they are hanging around or lying around. Do not then next is, do not take shelter near bigger hoardings or large trees, because there might be chances that the hoardings may fall, right? Hoardings means the big banners which we see for advertisement purpose, or the big trees, because even it may fall on us, okay? So we should take care of that, right? Next is earthquake. An earthquake in general means the shaking of the surface of the earth, right? Usually we all have experienced that it is usually the shaking of the earth. If you are reading the newspaper recently, just before 1 or 2 days, you might have read about the news that in the under-19 World Cup, the cricket match was going on between two teams. I don't remember, Ireland and some other team was there. So the match was going on in West Indies. So for 20 seconds there was an earthquake when the live match was going on, right? So there is a sudden shaking of the surface of the earth, which means earthquake. So due to tectonic activities in the interior of the earth, an earthquake is felt, right? So again we have studied about this, that there are some tectonic plates below the surface of the earth, and because of the movement of those plates, there is shaking felt on the surface of the earth. Its major areas are the regions with weaker reliefs on the surface of the earth. Probable earthquake regions can be identified, but an earthquake cannot be forecasted, right? We cannot forecast when the earthquake is going to take place, right? So there is all natural, means which cannot be forecasted or predicted. Thus much damage is caused in the absence of a forecast, right? Because if we are able to forecast, or if we are able to do the predictions, then we may take measures, or we may take steps in advance, precautionary steps, so that destructions can be minimized. But as it cannot be forecasted, we cannot do anything, and it happens at any point of time, so the destruction is usually very high. Now what to do during such kind of thing, or the earthquake? So during an earthquake, stay beneath a large bench or a table, right? So usually if there is a large table or a bench, usually try to hide beneath that, because there might be chances that the ceiling or the fan or the things lying at the higher place might fall, and you can get hurt because of those things. So usually you should hide under it. If you are in a school, sit beneath a bench. If you are in open space, stay away from buildings, balcony, electric power lines and electric poles, right? So you should try to stay away from them, because again there might be chances that the electric pole or the electric wires may fall on you. If you are driving a vehicle, then bring your vehicle to a halt. Halt means to stop. Over or below a bridge, okay? That means you are driving it, then you need to just stop your vehicle. Keep away from electric poles, power lines and traffic signals. Remain seated in your vehicle till the earthquake tremors are not over. That means what is given, that you need to just be seated in your vehicle, and once the tremor, that means the shaking of the earth, stops, you can come out of the car. Further, even after the earthquake tremors are over, few things like the fridge, photographs of on the wall, ceiling fans, etc. may fall down afterwards. So keep away from them. That means try to remain away from all those things, okay? For instructions or guidance about the event, listen to the local radio. Or new buildings under construction should be made earthquake proof, right? So again in India we had experienced a huge earthquake, because of which some regions of Kutch and Gujarat were affected very badly. But after that experience, the buildings and everything, the houses which are constructed, they are built earthquake proof. That means they are built in such a way that the effect of earthquake is minimum on those structures or buildings, okay? What not to do? So do not shout or flee in panic. That means usually we have seen that many people they get panicked, right? When the earthquake takes place, they get panicked. They feel that the building will get collapsed or it will get under the surface of the earth, so they usually dive from heights, and because of that they may even die, or even they may get fractures, right? Do not attempt to prevent the things falling down after the earthquake tremors. Do not use elevators to go down, right? Because might be possible that because of the earthquake the poles may fall down, and because of that the electricity is lost and the lift may get stuck in between, okay? So do not use that. If you are in a house, do not stand near wooden cabinets or cupboards, safes, mirrors or a glass chandelier. That means jhumar, okay? Do not light a matchstick or a lighter, or do not switch on electric gadgets before confirming that the cooking gas is not leaking, because leaking gas may boom explode, right? So usually because of the earthquake, if there is a leak in the gas, and if you are switching on the lights, or if you are using the lighter or a matchstick box, then immediately it may explode. Okay, so we need to take care of that. Further, do not put a phone call unless for emergency medical help or fire. A prompt phone call may interrupt a telephone network, which may obstruct the relief work, right? So usually we have seen that because after all such kind of disaster, the people, they start using the mobile phones or the telephones. So a huge number of use of the telephones at a single moment or a time causes heavy traffic, and because of that also there can be disturbance or destruction. Okay, means it may get, the telephone lines may get hanged, or it may stop working. Okay, so that is what is given over here, right? So next let us find out what is given over here is, okay, so next is tsunami, right? And still we have many other points, that is drought, forest fire, right? So still 3 points are remaining in the natural calamities. So those 3 points will be covering up in the next lecture. So for today we'll end our lecture over here only, okay, and the remaining part we'll discuss in the next lecture. So till then, take care of yourself, stay healthy and stay safe. Bye everyone.